Hi guys, welcome to another video. Hope you're all keeping well. Now this is going to be the second video in my James Herbert series of book reviews. I'm going to talk about Jim's second novel now that he released in 1975, directly after The Rats. Equally fantastic book, equally horrific book, and that book is called The Fog. Now, as per usual, before I say anything further about the book and give you my thoughts on the storyline as a whole, I'll just read you the synopsis at the back and what a synopsis it is. For goodness sake, don't leave this on Aunt Edna's chair. Just sums up, guys. It speaks volumes about the horrors you're gonna find in this book. Out of the yellowish fog, a man emerged. His eyes were fixed straight ahead, and his lips were frozen in a smile. In his hands, he carried the severed, still bleeding head of his wife. So there you go, guys. That's just one of many, many horrific moments in this absolutely classic tour de force of horror written by James Herbert, The Fog. Yeah. All right, then, guys. On to the storyline as a whole and my thoughts on the book. Yeah. Enjoyed it as much as The Rats, equally horrific. It's basically about this strange yellowish fog that comes out of the ground following an earthquake in a peaceful village in Wiltshire. What basically happens, it drifts around the countryside, and anybody who encounters it, they're driven completely screwy, and they commit all sorts of horrific, bloody acts, yeah. So that's a story in a nutshell, guys, yeah, about this strange fog. Something relating to a government experiment gone wrong, and it spawns this horrific, evil, creeping fog. Yeah. Okay, yeah, and oh yes, so many horrific moments in this book, guys, and a good protagonist as well, in the form of Holman, yeah, and his girlfriend Casey, yeah. Oh god, yeah, and there's one particular scene in this book, a very, very notorious scene. Well, if you've read the book, you know what I'm going to say. It's that scene in the school gym involving a gang of schoolboys and the helpless teachers and some garden shears. Yeah, I'm not going to say any more about it, but oh god, you're going to wince when you read that part. Yeah, it's the most memorable, notorious scene in this book. It's been remembered for years, and that due to its sheer horror, and brutality. Yeah, the notorious garden shears scene in the school gym, yeah. So, oh yeah, when I first shocked, I thought The Rats was shocking. When I read that, I was even more shocked, yeah. Back in the mid-70s, yeah. But that, again, that's just one of the many shocking episodes that you're going to find when you read The Fog, yeah. It drifts around the countryside, goes towards London, and it turns everybody into raving lunatics and that, and they commit these unspeakable acts of horror. It even affects animals as well, pigeons and cows and that, they turn on their owners and that, and you get odd job men turning on their employers and that, you'd even get like people in the streets, they go so mad they start having mass orgies and killing each other in the streets, yeah. Say no more about that, yeah. And the part where Holman's he's in the van and that, and he's driving through the fog shrouded streets when it moves to London and that. Oh, it's really eerie and that, because the way Herbert describes it, the whole town is completely sorry about this, guys. The whole town is completely enveloped by this yellowish fog. It's everywhere. Malevolent presence and that seems unstoppable. And the part where he describes Holman driving through the streets, it's really eerie and that, because he hears all these strange sounds and that, people screaming and that, people dying, people committing suicide and that. And talking of suicide, there's another notorious scene in this book where this girl, she gets fed up. Basically, I won't tell you too much about the story, but she gets fed up with life and that. She tries to in Bournemouth and that, and she tries to commit suicide by walking into the sea. But as she's walking into the sea, other people have got the same idea, and there's thousands and thousands of them going into the water as well. And I think, from what I can remember, I think she tries to turn back. I think she has second thoughts, but she can't turn back because there's that many bodies packed together, all walking into the sea, wanting to kill themselves. Oh yeah, some really memorable scenes in this book, guys. It's an absolute classic, The Fog. Yeah, if you haven't read The Fog, you want a real good horror novel that it's got a great pace and that, and it'll chill you to the bone. Get yourself a copy of The Fog. It's an absolute classic and that. And as I say, that speaks volumes. For goodness sake, don't leave this book on Aunt Edna's chair. It is a real shocker. It really is, yeah. Herbert was in top form when he wrote this book, guys. As I say, I do prefer his earlier books, and that is real in-your-face horror and that, you know. Oh yeah, he doesn't pull any punches with the fog, you know. I say, if you've read The Rats and that, you know, you thought that was shocking, you haven't read the fog. Wait you read the fog, you know. But oh yeah, one of his best books. I think, to be quite honest, guys, I would rank this as my second all-time favourite James Herbert book, after The Rats, you know. So but oh yeah, it's a real shocker, it really is. And the way he describes the scenes and that, you know, people, you know, killing themselves and that, and slaughtering their employers and that, and the school kids turning on their teacher and that. What happens with the school kids? They're on like on a day trip on a school bus, and the bus breaks down on the countryside, and while it's there waiting to be repaired, the fog drips into the bus and that, and the pupils inhale it and that, and it turns them mad and that. Oh, the real brutal and that. You know, talk about Lord of the Flies. Oh, you want to see what the schoolboys do in this book, guys, in the school gym, but enough said about that. You want to read, oh God, yeah. Notorious scene, if ever there was, yeah. One of the most memorable scenes in horror literature history, like the head spin and The Exorcist and that, you know, the rats eating the baby. Oh yeah, many, and you know, of course, Jaws, the shark devouring the people and that, yeah. This stands up there, the school gym scene, one of the most notorious, horrific scenes ever read in horror literature, yeah. But yeah, Herbert does a great job. In many ways, this book is very, it's very reminiscent of the kind of disaster novel what John Wyndham might write, you know, the guy who wrote The Day of the Triffids and the Midwich Cuckoos. It's got that kind of sci-fi disaster element, but it's got a good dollop of horror sprinkled all over it for good measure. And by George, guys, you will not want to put this down, I tell you. What you want to see, what happens right to the very end, the way this fog, it just comes out of this, and like the main guy, Holman, he becomes immune to it, because what happens is, when the earthquake first starts, he encounters that, and he tries to save, I think it's either a little girl or a little boy in that, but he succeeds in that. But what happens is he inhales the fog and it turns him screwy, so they admit him right away to hospital, but they cure him. So with him having that first encounter with the fog, he's become immune to it, if you know what I mean. So it doesn't affect him. So there you've got your main protagonist in the book, the main character, Holman, yeah. So and it's all about him like having his differences with the you've got like the subplot. He's got his differences with the government officials and that, you know. They sort of like want to do things their way and that, you know. He's trying to point out errors and that, you know. It's very good, really good and that, you know. And Herbert again is a master of the horror vignettes, because again you leave the hero for a moment, and you might switch to another character like a gamekeeper or a vicar, or as I say, the teachers in the school gym and that, and he build the characters up and that, only to kill them in the most horrific ways imaginable. And James Herbert is a master of the horror vignettes. I know I echo many Herbert fans in saying that he got that down to a T, the little horror vignettes and that, you know. You can find them in his other books as well, sprinkled around here and there. He was just a fantastic writer, and I don't think any British writer has come close to, you know, James Herbert's caliber. You know, he was so good at weaving a good plot, you know, together, you know, interesting characters, and he goes to town on the fog, guys. Make no mistake about it. One of the most horrific books I have ever read, from 1975. If you haven't read The Fog, you're in for a treat if you like your horror in your face. So I can't recommend this book highly enough. It had me gripped from start to finish. I've read it a couple of times now, just like The Rats, and it's just a fantastic book, a real horror classic, an absolute tour de force of horror, yeah. Okay then, guys, on to a rating now for The Fog. Well, no hesitation, a full 10 out of 10 for this masterpiece. That's how much I enjoyed it. Full marks for James Herbert for creating such a great, memorable, horrific story about this yellowish fog that comes out of an earthquake, you know. Very, very rare thing, obviously, in Britain and that, you know. Just comes out the ground and that, infects people, turns them mad, stark raving mad. And they do all sorts, as I say, like, you know, the killings and that, the mass orgies and that in the streets. Oh, you name it, they do it, yeah. That's how much it affects the brain, turns them into complete raving lunatics. And you've also got, like, you've got an element of George Romero zombies as well, because when the people get affected, when the nostrils are assailed by the fog, they turn into these, like, zombie characters and that, you know. They sort of like, they've got no, you know, they just basically got no will other than to kill people and that, you know. They roam around and that, you know, that blank, strange look on their face and that. So it reminds you of the George Romero zombies as well, yeah. But oh yeah, it's a classic, this, guys, The Fog, yeah. One of my all-time favourite James Herbert books. Oh, it's the stuff of nightmares. If you thought The Rats was horrific, wait, you read The Fog. Yeah, make no mistake, you need to get this book and read it from cover to cover. One of the greatest horror, but not just one of James Herbert's greatest horror books. I think one of the greatest horror books ever written, The Fog, from 1975. Yeah, and as I say, I must warn you about the school gym scene. Oh, God, yeah. All right, then, guys, that's it. That concludes my review of James Herbert's second novel from 1975, The Fog. Not to be confused with the John Carpenter movie, The Fog, which I did not like at all, about the pirates. I hated that. Yeah, so I would love to see this filmed one day, made into a movie and that. But they'd have a job on their hands, guys, creating those horrific scenes like Herbert created and that. You know, blood-packed scenes and that. People getting slaughtered mercilessly and that. There's no holds barred in The Fog, so be warned. If you're a nervous disposition, you might want to avoid this book. But if you love horror, I think you'll love this. Yeah. But yeah, okay then, guys. I hope you enjoyed my review of The Fog. Have you read The Fog by any chance? What did you think of it? Do you share my opinion? That's one of the greatest horror books ever written. And what do you think of the school gym scene? Oh, God. I think that'll be talked about for years and years, that school gym scene and that. Oh, so horrific, so bloody. Oh, God, yeah, yeah. Okay then, guys. All right, so I'm going to be back again soon with the third installments of my James Herbert's novels, you know. So stay tuned for that. Okay then, guys, have a nice weekend. Take care of yourselves. Bye for now. Oh, and don't leave this on your auntie's chair. Be warned. See ya. Ta-ta.